So I read an article this morning and it stated that the average 30-year-old today will be the first 30-year-old in all generations of America to have made less money than the generation before them. And that's me. I'm 32 years old today. Um, it makes me think, um, my generation, the millennials, we grew up in this new world. If you think about it, when I was 11, 8, 9, 10, when I was 9, 9/11 happened, right? And what 9/11 did to America was reduce the amount of privacy that we have, and it instituted this way of thinking that America needed more security. And so the way that I view America is under that microscope. Okay, I don't know a world before 9/11. Okay, going to the airport and having mass security and having given up certain individual rights for the great need of national security. That's normal for me. I don't know a world before that. And then right before I was gonna get into college, the Great Recession happens. Okay, that's normal for me. I don't know a world before a financial crisis. Okay, so when I start working, $8 an hour is normal for me. I don't know anything better than that. I don't know that people were making that much money before in the 80s or the 90s. To me, 18, 19-year-old making $8 an hour, I think that's fantastic. When I get my first promotion in that job to $12.50 an hour, I think I'm making great money. I'm making $200-$300 a week. I'm making significantly more than the rest of my peers, because they're still making $8.60 an hour. Okay, and I'm 19, 20, making $12.50. Okay, then my next jump goes up to $15. Okay, now I think I'm big stuff. So we're talking 2010, 2011, 2012. Okay, then what happens is for the next 10 years, everything kind of stops. Okay, if we think in terms of our union, okay, before 2010, the money printer was printing in the terms of good wages. Then after 2011, 2012, our union takes a big step back with the with the creation, I can't speak today, with the creation of the CCA position and the dramatic pay cut. And so, in a way, from 2013 to 2024, wages have been stagnant, right? So again, as a millennial, this is normal, right? But as I look back into history, it's not normal. We've been living in a real strange 30 years where everything has shifted from being able to maintain a middle American lifestyle to now people could barely afford to live with what used to be a good salary. So the problem is the pay hasn't gone up. If it's kept up with inflation, that's all it did. It kept up with inflation, but it has not kept up with the inflated prices of normal daily goods. So I say that to bring me to my point. So the millennials have, in effect, suffered financially, which is going to correspond to the next generation, Gen Z. So what does this tell us? Okay, when you look at leadership, when you look at the United States Senate, when you look at union leadership, when you look at these political establishments, they're often ran by people in an older generation, whether that's the baby boomers, or maybe that's still a few silent generators around, the people in their 70s and 80s, like Warren Buffett, some of the older Americans that are still alive. Then you have that that baby boomer generation who only knew prosperity. Okay, a lot of baby boomers were born in an era where the United States was thriving, where a lot of soldiers were coming back from the war, where the government was offering subsidized housing. They were giving people loans for the first time to buy houses. And with those loans that were being offered, construction was being produced. Houses were being massively produced, cookie cutter houses in suburbs, and people were living prosperous for like a good 20 years, okay? And then in 1970, the world that we know today started happening. And a lot of people would say that's because of us leaving the gold standard, and that's a good argument. However, from 1970 to 2024, the economy has not risen in real wages. Everything's nominal from that point when we get into this fiat currency, when we get into this American dollar backed off of nothing but faith, okay? Today we live in a world where if you do the basic math, the average letter carrier is making less than they made in 1970 when you put that money up for inflation. So what I'm trying to say is we're being led by a generation who has ideas of a way that a world used to be. That's not the world today. I don't think that we'll ever get back to that world unless we have a new world war where there needs to be mass manufacturing of arms and, a lot of people going to war, and then when we come back from war, we'll have that prosperity. But I don't even think that's the answer. I don't think an economy can thrive off of a war economy, and I think that's how America is set today, just because we don't have too much manufacturing. I digress. The bigger point I'm trying to make is I think our political system, I think our union needs to begin to be led by people who understand that this way of living isn't the way. It's no longer acceptable. It's not a fair bargain in today's economy, in today's world. The old adage, put your time in and you'll receive the rewards later on in life, I don't think that no longer applies. I think today we have a system where the young people are going to pay into Social Security until it breaks. So in return, we're going to subsidize the baby boomers for their entire life. But after the boomers are gone, after Social Security, whatever happens with that, what happens next? And if you're telling me that we got to put our faith into a stock market that tends to crash every 10 years, since I've been alive or old enough to look back in my lifetime, the stock market has crashed about 4 times, okay? And is projected to crash at least once every 10 years. That's not stability. That's not a way of protecting for our future as young folks in America. I believe that there's a way of thinking that the old way of doing things no longer applies today. But as long as we have people that think that way, creating the rules and the laws to protect that establishment, we won't progress. We would just digress into a worse society, a society where no matter how much you make an hour, it won't be enough just because of the way that the prices of everything increase substantially. And now it's happening even faster than ever. So I don't think the solution is to keep electing the same folks over and over again with their promises. I don't think that their way of thinking through division is the answer. These people like to divide people amongst each other based off of ethnicity, sexuality, gender, creed. That is not the answer. The answer is to find what we have in common, okay? And apparently the problem is we are suffering as average working Americans, and how to create a solution to solve that problem. So I think it's time that, the older generation really takes a reality check and say, you know what, this isn't our world anymore. It's changed, and let's let some of these people that are going to face these problems in the future get a chance at tackling it.